My name is Melissa Kelly, and I will be telling you about choroideremia. Well, choroideremia is a genetic disease that affects the eyes. More specifically, it affects the retina in the eye and the cells that help block the light from coming into your eyes. You see, there's tissue that cells make to block the light, and when you have choroideremia, those cells do not keep reproducing to help block the light from your eye. Therefore, you start getting progressive vision loss and eventually go blind. 1 in 58,000 usually have it, and it's mostly affected in males. It's the reason for approximately 4% of all blindness, but is not the main issue for blindness. So what symptoms do you get when you get choroideremia? Well, it's usually progressive vision loss and ability to see details. In early childhood, you start developing night blindness. And then your teenage and early adult years, you will possibly lose peripheral vision, also called tunnel vision. In adulthood and older, you could become more blind. There are no diet restrictions to this, and it really only affects eyesight. It does not affect your age or your living expectancy. So, you may be wondering what causes choroideremia. Well, it's a mutation in the genes. You see, usually, if the gene is not mutated, there are proteins that get delivered specifically to the retina to help develop the light-blocking cells. When the protein is delivered to a cell, there is an enzyme that binds with the substrate and causes a chemical reaction for the light to be blocked in the eye. When the protein is not successfully delivered, then the enzymes cannot bind correctly with the substrate, and the cell goes into process of dying. When this happens several times, this is when you progressively lose your vision as light keeps getting in and your retina is weaker. With choroideremia, it is mostly sex gene related. That means that it is dependent on gender who gets the disease. Many outcomes are depending on the parents. So let me show you what I mean. Choroideremia is a recessive gene, meaning you have to have 2 little h's to be affected. Now, normal is having 2 big H's, meaning you don't carry the disease at all. Then there's a carrier, where you have the gene, but you also have another gene that cancels out having the disease, but you carry the disease to your offspring. And lastly, affected, where you have the 2 little h's, meaning you have choroideremia. The key is the parents. See, mom is big X, and dad is big X, big Y. Then the offspring would be girl, little x, and boy, little x, little y. Now for offspring, there's always a 50-50% chance of getting a girl or boy. Note, since males only have 1 X chromosome to hold the disease, that is only what can be passed on to. See, a male can only have a big H or a little h because of only having that 1 X chromosome. So here we have the mom, normal. You can see by the key we had before of big H, meaning she does not carry any of the disease. But here we see the dad is affected by the disease. So with their offspring, the big H and the little h would combine for a daughter to be a carrier. And then again, the big H and little h combine for another daughter to have a carrier. With the mom being normal, the X chromosome she passes on to her sons will be normal as well. As you can see, they will not be affected. This means that if they had girls, both girls would be carriers of the disease but would not have it. And if they had boys, none of the boys would be affected at all. So here we have the mom as a carrier. She has the big H and the little h, meaning she carries the gene but does not get affected by it. And we have the dad still affected. So when they have offspring, the big H and the little h for the daughter will be a carrier. and the X here, and the X here, will have an affected daughter. With the one big H to pass down to the boy will be normal here. And this X chromosome that gets passed on the boy is affected. Therefore, he will be affected. So, if they had a girl, one of them could possibly be carrier or affected. If they had a boy, he would either be normal or affected. So, the mom is still a carrier, but the dad is normal now. When these two X chromosomes are given to the girl, she would be normal. In this situation with this X chromosome and this X chromosome, the girl would be a carrier. With these with the one big H passed down to the boy, he would be normal, and the other would be affected. So, if these parents had offspring and had a girl, there's 50% chance she would be normal or a carrier. If they had a boy, 50% chance normal, 50% chance affected. Now we have the mom affected and the dad still normal. With the mom affected, she passes this X chromosome onto her daughter with the dad's X chromosome, this making the daughter a carrier. It is also the same situation over here. With the mom affected with both X chromosomes, and she only giving one X chromosome to a boy, both boys would be affected. So, if these parents have offspring as a girl, the girl would be 100% a carrier of the disease. If they had a boy, the boy would be 100% affected. And lastly, the obvious one, where if both parents were affected, all their offspring would be affected as well. These are all the possibilities and combinations of parents and the results of their offspring, if they were affected with choroideremia. I will now be showing you my family pedigree on how choroideremia got passed down. Here we have a family pedigree, where you can see how the choroideremia gene was passed on from generation to generation. Here's the key: normal, carrier, and affected. You can see these are the original parents that started the passing on to the gene to their offspring, and then continuing the process. For example, the original parent was a female carrier and a normal male. When they had offspring and had a daughter, she was a carrier, and their son was normal. Then he married an affected female and had offspring, and she married an affected male and had offspring. The offspring for the normal male and the affected female was a female carrier and an affected son. The offspring for the female carrier and affected male was 2 female carriers and 1 unaffected son. The process continues as they create different parents and combinations to have different offsprings. Now you get a simple idea of how a pedigree works and how the gene is passed on. Now here we have a normal DNA sequence inside a cell that does not have choroideremia. As you can see, the cell is transcribed and translated into a protein. Proteins are made up of amino acids. So this would be the amino acid chain that makes up the proteins that are delivered to the retina to help develop the cells that block out light. Here we have a mutated gene, one that when it is transcribed and translated, there's a stop codon, which stops the process of making proteins to happen. This mutation is called mutated nonsense, where when the DNA sequence is transcribed and translated, there comes a stop codon that stops the sequence from continuing to make proteins to be delivered. When the proteins are not delivered to the retina, the cells are not able to be developed, therefore light is not blocked from your eye. This is the cause of choroideremia. There are currently no medications and treatments approved yet for choroideremia. There is also no cure found, although there have been many discoveries involving choroideremia and helping cure it. If you want to know more about choroideremia, then go on choroideremia.org and check out the fundraising to help find a cure.